Hello, everyone. This is Jennifer McCrae, the J Shrink. How y'all doing on this lovely day? It's a lovely day here in Shreveport. um, but I'm here to tell you. I'm here. I had a knee surgery in between this um this video and the one about Sylvia Likens and Gertrude Baniszewski, the diabolically tortured to death video. That was my first true crime story told from a psychological viewpoint. But this is another one of my true crimes cases told from a psychological viewpoint. And it involves a very psychologically sick man named Gary Heidnik and all the despicable acts of holding mostly mentally challenged young women bondage and torturing them in the process. Now this video is gonna be disgusting. It's going to be graphic. It's gonna be uh, horrific. It's just that I can't describe all the words. And this man was just sick. He deserved what he got in the end. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about Gary. His mission was to get a group of women pregnant, was to house a group of women and keep them captive, so that he can get them pregnant, and that he can have the perfect biracial family, because his victims happen to be black. And I'm going to the span of the crimes that he committed um, was from 1978 to 1987. From a psychological forensic viewpoint, we're going to ask the following questions, because y'all know that my videos are educational. They're not just for entertainment. But hopefully you won't find this entertaining. You will find this disgusting. You will find it atrocious. Just awful. So we're going to ask the following questions. Who was Gary Heidnik and what was his background? How his early childhood, how his early adulthood, I'm sorry, I'm messing up now. How his early adulthood contributed to his later crimes. How did he select and treat his victims? And how did he give sermons while his victims were kept in the basement, in the pit of his house? And during the trial, was he malingering? We're also going to look up the concept that people always get mixed up with, the definitions of legal insanity versus clinical insanity. Okay? Okay, we're going to talk about his background right now. Gary Michael Heidnik was born on November 22nd, 1943 to Michael and Eric Heidnik. He was the eldest of two children, himself and his brother Terry. They were born in Cleveland, Ohio. When his parents divorced at the age of 7, Gary and his brother Terry was left with his alcoholic and uncaring mother, Ellen. Um, so later on, the father, he came to take custody of them when Gary was in the first grade. His father was said to be a strict disciplinarian. Because Gary, he began wetting the bed. He started out psychological problems wetting the bed. And his father, Michael, would always get the sheets and hang them out the window to humiliate and punish Gary. so that all the neighbors can see that he was a bedwetter. He wetted his bed until his teenage years. And his father also humiliated him and his brother by hanging them out when he was in a bad mood, hanging them out of the window by their ankles. Okay, now, when Gary was a young boy, he was climbing a tree. He fell from the tree, injuring his head so badly that it was misshapen. Okay, y'all, I don't understand why Daddy didn't take him to the hospital. He saw hurt that he fell out of a tree. He just went about life as normal and didn't get any kind of, well, they maybe had CAT scans, but they didn't have all the functional, what you call it, thing? Functional MRIs and all those things that they have now. But still, his daddy should have took him to the hospital to see if he had any brain damage. And we don't know that this fall contributed to his brain damage, and that would be dependent on which part of his brain was damaged. But he was messed up, so we don't know if it's nature or nurture or probably both. But his head injury may have had something to do with it because his peers, they made fun of his misshapen head so badly that he told his father he wanted to go to a military school. So he put him in a military school because other kids, he couldn't get along with them at all. And at school, they tested him and they said he had an IQ of 148. That's a genius. Okay, so he only stayed in the school for 2 years. Then he went to the Army when he was 17. He excelled in basic training, and his goal was to be a military police officer, but they deemed him unfit for some reason. We don't know. And it's good that they deemed him for some reason, because we will see that he definitely was not fit to be a police officer. Okay, so he went on to become a medic in San Antonio, and was later transferred to West Germany, where he got his GED. While he was in Germany, he complained of severe headaches, dizziness, blurred visions, and nausea, and a physician diagnosed him with gastroenteritis. And later on, that physician or another physician, I'm not sure if it's that physician or another physician, he kept having all these physiological problems. But one of the military physicians diagnosed him as schizophrenic, and he was prescribed an antipsychotic. Shortly after that, he was honorably honorably discharged and given his full disability benefits from the VA. After his discharge, he became an LPN. He got a job at a local VA hospital, but he got fired because he was rude to the patients and wouldn't carry out his duties like he was supposed to. So that was the last legit job he had for the rest of his life. He spent his adulthood in and out of mental hospitals for attempting suicide several times. Okay. Let me see. Okay, that's him and his misshapen head there. Okay. And let me get the part about the. Okay. Okay. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, y'all. Hold up. Okay. After that, around the fall of 1971, he started his grifting by incorporating a church that he called United Church of Ministries of God. It had 5 followers, but it later grew to be semi-prosperous. By 1975, he used his nonprofit status to amass uh, $1,500 that he had from his VA benefits since he didn't work and everything to $500,000 by investing in a Merrill Lynch account. By 1980, his church was prosperous. Lonely, so that's him in his church, and well, we'll go over that in a minute. Okay, in a minute, y'all. Okay. Lonely, Gary sought out a mail order bride from the Philippines named Betty Disto. Because he believed that Asian women were more submissive and he could do anything he wanted with her because she was Asian. And Asian women are known to be compliant. And so they corresponded for 2 years and they never saw each other. But after the second year, she came to the United States and got married. But once with wait a minute, I'm sorry. Once with Gary, Betty found out that she was in deep shit. This man was muy loco. He was crazy. She found Gary in bed with 2 other women. Then he began to rape and assault Betty on a constant and regular basis and made her watch him have sex with other women. Soon Betty grew tired of his antics, and at the first opportunity, she discovered she was pregnant with Gary's baby, but she didn't want to be with Gary. So, with the help of the Filipino community, she left him for good and gave birth to his son. But the son didn't have the name Disto. The son had the name Disto instead of Heidnik. She didn't want to be reminded of him, even though she had the baby. So he went on to have children by 2 intellectually disabled women who were promptly placed in foster care because these women had IQs of 50 and lower. So they couldn't take care of themselves, not less the baby. One of the females was his girlfriend, Anjanette Davidson, and he wanted her sister. Her sister, Alberta, was in a mental institution for being severely mentally disabled or mentally challenged. So he wanted to take her out. He fooled the staff to take Alberta out on a 1-day pass, and then he would bring her back. And I don't know, y'all. A white man come in to a mental institution with a very severely mentally disturbed, and they don't call them mentally disadvantaged young woman, and they let him take him out. That's a red flag there. I don't know why. But you know what he didn't do? He didn't bring her back. He took her to his house. He locked her in a storage room in his basement and raped and sodomized her. After that, she was found. Wait a minute. Okay. After that, they found they found that Gary had sodomized her, raped her, and given her, and she contracted gonorrhea from him. And she was just a mess. She had blood all over her. She was crying. She was in distress. So he was arrested and charged with rape, kidnapping, false imprisonment, interfering with the custody of a committed person. He appealed all these, and y'all, they didn't send him to jail. They sent him to spend 3 years in a mental facility. This man got all the breaks, y'all. He got all the breaks. Okay. So right now we're gonna go to his selection of victims. Oh look. Oh, I should have put this stuff in order when I was doing it. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, y'all. Gotta get these victims. Wait a minute, hold on. It's people talking and everything. Hold up. Hold up, y'all. Okay, hold up. Wait a minute. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, trying to get his victims. Wait a minute. And it's y'all, man, some problems. Hold up, y'all, okay? Here's a fair copyright use until I found his victims, okay? Sorry about that, y'all. Let me go ahead and finish this up. Okay. So, like I said, he chose the softest target as his victims. And these were women that would not be missed. You know what they say about when black women uh, disappear because of human trafficking. This is a case in which it was done. Okay, so he selected his victims. They were black females in their late teens, mid 20s. They were easily influenced by his charisma and his flash of money and the things he could buy them. and they all but one, Josephina, was intellectually disabled or mentally challenged. And I'm not gonna say it's the R word. They were the R word. Okay. His victims were Josephina Rivera, age 23, who he abducted in November of 1925, 1986. She's the one on the top left. Sandra Lindsay, 24. She was abducted abducted on December 3rd, 1986. She's the one to the far right top. The other was Lisa Thomas, age 19, abducted December 23rd, 1986. Deborah Dudley, she's the one in the middle. She was abducted January 2nd, 1987. Jacqueline Adams, age 18, was abducted on January 18th, 1987. And the last victim, Agnes Adams, 24. She evicted them. I'm sorry, they abducted her on March 23rd, 1987. He had dystopic white savior complex, the dystopic white savior complex. He abducted his victims because he felt superior to them. And he had this God complex. It was dystopic God, not like the kind of where you want to help the black people, but the one where you want to exploit the black people. And he wanted them to worship him as a lover and as a husband type figure. And we're going to talk about signatures also in here. The signature that he used. A signature is a pattern of distinctive behaviors that are characteristic of and they satisfy the emotional or psychological needs of the other. They often use that signature, like Law and Order, NCIS, all that. It's kind of a pattern that they use, but more similar than a motive apparatus. Excuse me. His treatment of victims. His first victim was 23-year-old sex worker Josephina Rivera. She was out waiting for a John. She wanted to have a quickie encounter with a John so she can make some fast money and go back home because it was the night before Thanksgiving. But the John who appeared had a lot of money and was driving a late model Cadillac. And he also seemed like he was okay. They talked about random things. And he didn't seem like he was out of the ordinary or strange or creepy or anything like that. So he offered to instead of going to a hotel or a car to do the dirty deed at his house. Okay, so when they got to his, and boy, was she wrong to go to his house. That was her almost closely fatal mistake. Almost fatal, but it was a tragic mistake. So the next thing so they had consensual sex like they agreed upon. The next thing she knew that he was choking her and he raped her, and before she knew it, she was handcuffed by him with her hands behind her back. and he led her down to his basement. Once there, he chained her to a large, heavy heating pipe, and then shackled her ankles with metal clamps and secured them with super glue so that they, wouldn't get off. And that's another one of his signatures. You see, he used metal clamps and secured them so that they couldn't, run away or get off or anything like that. 2 months later, he forced a terrifying and crying, mentally disadvantaged woman known as Sandra Lindsay, age 24, with the IQ of 50. Like he did Josephina, Gary cuffed, chained, and raped her too. Later, he brought Lisa Thomas, Deborah Dudley, Jacqueline Askins to the basement. So he just gradually, in between days, got these women and somehow lured them to his basement. To his house. And then imprisoned him and held him captive in his basement. In his basement, he had a long, dark hole, which he called the pit. Let me see if I can get the pit. Wait a minute, y'all. Wait a minute. That he called the pit. This is a picture of the pit right here. It was the pit was a large hole beneath the ground where he could hold the bodies. So basically what he did was he had, just a regular basement. And see this pit, he dug a pit, like a well where he can put the women in there and and punish them, with sensory deprivation. And so he put their bodies in there. He had subject them to various forms of punishment while in the pit. He would put a disobedient girl in the pit and close it with the plywood topped with sandbags until he decided that she had had enough. Let's see if I can find that. Wait a minute, y'all. Okay. That's the pit. That's the girls inside the pit. He would put them down in the pit. And then see what he would do? He would place plywood over the pit and then put the sandbags over the plywood so the girls couldn't get out, they couldn't do anything. And the girls could hear it come and go, and they would get scared. But he to make sure that nobody could hear them or that they could hear him coming, he would wait a minute. Let me get my notes right here. Okay. He decided to use his house. He boarded up all the windows. He turned the radio up as loud as he could, and he stabbed the girls in the eardrums with the screwdriver to deafen them so they couldn't hear him coming or nobody could hear their cries. Okay? So after a while, with 5 girls, Sandra, the one that I told you, about they cried and carried on really bad because she was terrified. She had disobeyed Gary in some fashion. They didn't say how she did it and what she did. Maybe because she was crying and you know and just screaming and not doing what she was supposed to do. I don't know, but um, he took her out of the pit and chained her arms to the base. He put her in the base in the pit. Then he took her out and put her uh, arm up to the baseboard of the stairwell in an uncomfortable position. So, and he tried to get her to eat. When she was in the pit, she was starved, so she couldn't eat. And by this time, she couldn't eat. He kept her in there too long. She developed a fever as well as being starved and tortured. She had lost the will to live. She ultimately died of starvation, torture, and untreated fever. Okay. An untreated fever. Okay, y'all. I would like for y'all to do something for me. Because we're going to get to the part that's going to really be disgusting, really graphic. I hope you can hold your stomach. It's going to be viewer discretion, very triggering, and very upsetting. This whole story just made me mad. Okay, but before we do that, before we get to this part, please subscribe, like, and comment on my YouTube video. Jennifer McCrae, J Shrink, and I'll be making this video and a lot more videos. Y'all notice in my videos, sometimes I'm up and sometimes I'm down. It depends because I'm bipolar. But anyway, so please subscribe to my video. Okay. After realizing that Sandra was dead, Gary decided to dismember her body by cutting down her bones with a chainsaw, especially her large bones, her limbs, and put them in the freezer. Then he took an industrial-sized meat cutter and ground up the rest of her body. He put her head in a large pot on the stove and boiled it. And y'all, this is just, I don't know, disgusting, horrific, awful, tragic, just, I don't know. I don't have the words for it. He seasoned and cooked her ribs in the oven. He usually fed the girls dog food, but this time he mixed parts of Sandra's flesh in with the dog food. This bastard was crazy as a bedbug. I don't know. In essence, he forced the girls to eat the cannibalized remains of Sandra. Soon the neighbors started to complain about the putrid, ultra funky odor coming from Gary's house. But when the police came to investigate the smell, Gary reassured them that he had burned a pork roast, and that was the reason why it was smelling so bad because he burnt the roast. Satisfied, the police left. Now let me tell y'all something. There is a odor of death. I don't know, not very many people know that odor. I experienced that odor, once in my life. And it is a very indescribable odor. It's kind of, I don't know, putrid. Uh, it is, I don't know, it's just indescribable. I don't know how come the police who see dead bodies and stuff on a regular basis couldn't put one and one together and figure out that this is the smell of a dead human body. So that's the way the system failed them. Failed the girls. They just listened to him, the white man, and just left the girls. So uh, we get to another sad part. Gary, he also used electric shock as a form of torture. On many occasions, he forced the girls into the pit and filled it halfway with water and shocked them with an electric current from a strip extension cord to the girls' chain. Okay. Um, he filled it up. As a result, he filled it up with water. The pit with water up to their waist. Josephina. Okay. Up to. Okay. So he. Okay. Up to their waist. Okay. I'm getting my notes mixed up. Okay, so the victim here was Deborah Dudley. Deborah Dudley was the one that was always confrontational, always combative, always rebellious, and always cussed out and just got on Gary's nerves. As a result, he ended up filling up the pit with water above the waist, and he had Josephina to apply electrode directly to the water to the chain on Deborah Dudley's um, uh, Deborah Dudley's ankle for a long period of time. And he told Josephina that if something happened, he was going to implicate her implicate her as an accessory. So this kind of like the Patty Hearst thing, where she did it because she was scared. Y'all remember that the Patty Hearst thing about the bank robbery and everything. Okay, but instantly Deborah's system couldn't take it and she died. This time, Gary disposed of her body by hiding it in the Pines Barren Wood in New Jersey. Okay, so next, Deborah's death softened him emotionally towards his victims. He began to treat them better and gave them TV, blankets, and more privileges. That's the second girl he killed. He didn't want to go through all the rigmarole, all the mess that he went through with Sandra. So he just dumped her body, Deborah Dudley's body. After this, Josephina, she was the first of the victims. Wait a minute. This is the girls here, chained up and everything. So, soft victims, very soft victims. So, Josephina got an idea. She wanted to get the hell up on out of there. And Josephine was from the streets. So she used her street smart ways to to endear herself to Gary and to save the girls in the process. So she took Gary's side automatically to do whatever he said when handling the other girls. Uh, this kind of attention made Gary grow to trust her more. He led her upstairs with him. He let her stay upstairs with him, watch movies, cook for him, go out to eat, go shopping. And she was allowed to keep up her hygiene when the other ladies weren't. However, periodically, he made her go to the basement, but he did that less and less and less. He also wanted her to lure other girls to him. And Josephina, she just said, yeah, okay, I will. I will, Gary, I'll do that. So eventually Josephina asked Gary if he would allow her to say goodbye to her family, um, so that they won't be suspicious or anything. But he couldn't come because that's Josephina right there. And that's scary. Okay. Be, uh, but she had to go along because they would be suspicious that an unknown white man would be with her while she's telling them goodbye. Okay. So she managed to get him to stop at a gas station because she said her family would be suspicious. We said that. So he gave her 15 minutes to do this while he waited in the car at the gas station. She casually turned the corner, just like always. She wasn't scared. She was scared inside, but she didn't show it. So she just confidently, like she would normally do, turned the corner. And when she turned the corner, she spotted a payphone. She immediately called the 911. The police soon came around, and they interviewed Josephina. But when she told them about her ordeal in captivity, what he did, they didn't believe her about her captivity and the captivity of other girls and what Gary did to them. They didn't believe her because she was black and he was a white man, and you know that story, human trafficking. But they did believe her in the end because she pulled up her pants and she showed them the scars and wounds that she suffered from being shackled. They immediately arrested Gary as he was still waiting in the car for Josephina. They then rescued the other girls after seeing the squalor and torturous techniques in the basement, with the girls still, adhered to them. Gary was arrested and charged in 1987. He was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder, 5 counts of kidnapping, 6 counts of rape, 2 counts of deviant sexual intercourse, 4 counts of aggravated battery. He also tried to pretend like he was mentally ill. We call that mingering. He grew his beard long. He let his hair go wild, and he acted up in court. But the prosecutor put a stop to that when he found out that Gary tried about he got a witness from Merrill Lynch from Gary's investment fund account, who said that Gary was a very savvy investor in the stocks, and he had over $1 million. He had $550,000 bank worth of investments in his account, in his brokerage account. And that would be $1.3 thousand in today's money. Now, okay, y'all. I was looking at this. Um, I looked at it on cable, and it talked to Josephina and Jacqueline and Jackie, and it just made me mad. It made me mad the system failed them. Um, they found out Josephina, she was the most outspoken, and Jackie suffered severe PTSD because of their severe torture. And at that time, they didn't have a fund. I'm sorry, they didn't have any counseling for them, so they had to endure all that over and over and over again. And Josephina, she got on drugs for a little while, but she got off and finally got some counseling. And fortunately, the girls, Josephina and Jackie, was given a victim's restitution, some of that $1.3 million that Gary had set up in his brokerage account. But it was sad that they just let them go. They had no counseling. They had nothing in place. But now they had this female chief, and she said that they offer counseling for victims of crimes and human trafficking. So, and for a long time, everybody blamed Josephina, but Josephina, she did what she had to do. I mean, she didn't just voluntarily just do that. She she had to do what he said to get herself free and get those other girls free. So tell me what you think about this story. This story made me mad. It disgusted me. It just, he was just a monster. I just like to poke his eyes out with the darn screwdriver and just get a knife and cut him up. I shouldn't say that. I'm just kidding. But anyway, that's the end of the story. And if you have any comments, please do so below. Thank you.